18 years ago, Doreen and Neville Lawrence embarked upon a journey no parent would ever want to make. Their horrific story began on the 22nd of April 1993, when their 18-year-old son, Stephen Lawrence, was stabbed and murdered by white racist youths. Within days, the police had the names of 5 suspects.
Did you kill Stephen Lawrence?
No, I did not.
Because I can't remember, does that make me guilty?
And today, 2 of them, Gary Dobson and David Norris, were found guilty of the murder of Stephen Lawrence.
We hadn't done anything. It was just because we were black.
This is a crime which has reverberated through society, helped change the legal system, and which heaped humiliation on the Metropolitan Police.
It was like sitting in the stocks, and it hurt. You know, you can't believe this is an organisation I've spent 37.5 years in, being criticised like this.
But the biggest impact has been on Stephen's family, who've waited 18 years to see justice for their murdered son.
It was as if Stephen was being murdered over and over again. And that is what Doreen and Neville have had to put up with.
The initial police investigation was so deeply flawed, it allowed Dobson and Norris to escape justice.
This case was a scar on the face of criminal justice.
And it is only now, 18 years later, and thanks to advances in forensic science, a microscopic drop of blood on Gary Dobson's jacket.
That blood drop comes back with a full DNA profile saying it's Stephen Lawrence's blood.
And fibres from Stephen's clothing found on items seized from David Norris proved conclusively that these 2 men were guilty of murder.
They had 18 years of freedom and the ability to walk the streets, which they didn't deserve.
The failure of the police stirred emotions in the wider public.
Police officers are human beings. They suffer from all the frailties of human beings.
But it all started in Eltham 18 years ago, when an innocent teenager lost his life. Stephen Lawrence was the eldest of 3 children. He was born into a church-going family and was well known to his local vicar.
He was very comfortable in his own skin. He was very outgoing, you know, he belonged to the Cambridge Harriers, he was a sprinter, he enjoyed music, he enjoyed life. He was a delightful human being.
He was a good guy, got on with everybody, didn't have an enemy in the school at all, well liked by the teachers. So he's one of those goody-goody guys.
His parents were Jamaican immigrants who believed in improving their lot through hard work.
Doreen and Neville were people who wanted to get on, and I think they bred into their kids an attitude that there may be difficulties being black in Britain, but if you keep your head down, really, and work hard, you'll get somewhere. And I think that was, you know, Stephen's attitude, it was the family's attitude.
They were a happy family, 3 lovely children, united, and this was just a terrible sort of arrow through the heart, really.
The family lived in Eltham in South London, a place which has seen its fair share of racial tensions.
The area where Stephen grew up was notorious for racism. You get relatively small numbers of black and minority ethnic families living in a sea of white, poorly educated people. And that's the recipe for significant racism.
It was scary because you don't know what could happen to you. You would always get some car driving past and someone would shout out the words nigger or black bastard or what you doing in Eltham.
On the night of Stephen's murder, he and Dwayne had been out together and were travelling back across Eltham, heading home. Stephen had promised his parents he'd be in by 10:30.
It's a little after 10:30, so Stephen is late. The curfew has passed, as it were, He knows he's only 10 or 15 minutes from home. If the bus comes, he'll be there in no time.
They got to the bus stop and they were waiting for the bus. And it was taking a long time. So they walked around the corner to see if the bus was coming.
I shouted out to Steve, "Can you see the bus?" To my left, on the other side of the road, was a group of 6 white boys, and the response that came back was, what nigger? And at that moment in time, the person who I presume had shouted out, what nigger, then began to draw a weapon out from his trousers. She ran! I ran, and to my surprise and disappointment, Steve hadn't run.
They caught up with Stephen in an attack that seemed to have been over in a very few seconds. He received 2 fatal stab wounds.
The pathologist at Stephen Lawrence's autopsy was clear. Both injuries were inflicted with a massive amount of force.
The first was on the left side of his arm, on the outside of his arm, and the track of that injury came from the left to the right into his upper chest cavity, and it cut through a major blood vessel and nerve just behind the left collarbone. The injury to the right side lay just in front of the middle part of his right collarbone, and went straight downwards. Once again, it cut through this major blood vessel and the major nerve fibre on the right-hand side. And both tracks went into the body about 5 inches deep.
So as I've run back to him and he's jumped up, it was an amazing sense of relief at that time, on top of the relief that I had that they'd run off.
Come on! I'm telling you, coming back, come on!
And it was not until we was running up the road that I realised that, something else had happened.
Run me, blood!
He was running awkwardly. His voice became fainter as we was running, and I was just begging him just to run just that little bit more. And he called my name one more time, and the way he said it just stopped me in a sense. I was still running, but the way he said it stopped me, and he just fell.